What is going on, my Math 8 people? Here we go. We got lesson 2-8. Create an equation from 2 points. Okay, so far we have done a few things with our linear equations. We have found the slopes. And on the last lesson, we found out that if we had the slope and a point, we could actually find the equation. So what we're going to do is we're going to combine those two things to do something new. So let's refresh our memories on how to find the slope of a line. Okay, so if you are working there in class right now, what I want you to do is find the slope of this line right here, the line that passes through 7, -5, and 9, 3. When you're done with that, complete this problem. Find the equation of the line that passes through 6, -9, and has a slope of 3. All right, so pause the video right now and try to do those two things. All right, if you've unpaused, here we go. So when we're finding the slope between the line, we've got x and y over here. I'm going to call them x sub 1, y sub 1. And then I'm going to call these x2 and y2. So when we find the slope, we can do the change in y over the change in x, which would be the y subtracted, so 3 minus -5, over the x's subtracted, 9 minus 7. So remember when you have a negative number right there with the 3 minus -5, then we're going to get 8. And in the denominator, we have 9 minus 7, which is 2. So our slope, after we reduce this, is 4. There we go. We know how to find the slope from 2 points, and that's great. There's much celebration. Next one. Find the equation line that passes through 6, -9, and has a slope of 3. So this is what we were talking about in the last lesson, where we're going to use the equation y equals mx plus b. To find the equation of a line, we need two things. We need m and we need b. This problem gave us m. M is 3. That's our slope. What we're missing is b. So what we're going to do is we're going to use this point, 6, -9, as our x and y in this equation. So we're going to fill in y, m, and x, and then we can find b, and we'll have the two things we need to write the equation of the line. So let's plug everything in. Instead of y, I plug in -9. Instead of m, I plug in 3. Instead of x, I plug in 6 plus b. All right, so now I'm going to solve for b. I'm going to multiply 3 and 6 together. I've got -9 equals 18 plus b. Now we're going to use our subtraction property of equality and subtract 18 from both sides. And -9 minus 18, we add the two numbers and keep the negative sign. So we've got -27 equals b. Okay, I now know that b is -27. At the beginning of the problem, we knew that the slope was 3. So now I can write the equation. Y equals m, that was 3. X plus b, and b is -27, so I'm going to write y equals 3x minus 27. Today, instead of having a point and the slope, we're going to just have 2 points. So the steps are going to be pretty much what we just did here with one extra step. Our extra step is to find the slope of the line between the 2 points. So once we find the slope of the line, then we can finish it just like we did this one. Okay, so our steps: find the slope of the line between the 2 points, use y equals mx plus b, and substitute one of the points into x and y and the slope into m. Then we solve for b. Then we write the equation in slope-intercept form using the slope you're given and the b value that you found. Last step, Now this step is super important since there's going to be there's going to be a lot of little steps going on here. There's extra places where you can mess up. We're going to double check our answer at the very end of it, and I'll show you what that looks like in a second. All right, let's practice this. So they have given me 2 points. Remember, I need M and I need B. They gave me neither one of them. So they gave me 2 points. I can still find M. So I'm going to call this x1, y1, x2, y2. So let's find M first. Remember, we do the change in y or the change in x. So we're going to do 4 minus 2. That's our y values. We're subtracting them. Over 5 minus 3. That's our 2x values. We subtract them. 4 minus 2 is 2. 5 minus 3 is 2. 2 divided by 2 is 1. There's our slope. Now to find the equation, we still need to find our b value. So we're on step 2. We're going to use y equals mx plus b and substitute one of the points into x and y and the slope that we just found. Okay, so we've got the slope, and we're going to use one of these 2 points. You get to choose which one you want. I'm going to choose this one. This will be my x, this will be my y, and m is equal to 1. So we're going to use y equals mx plus b. And step number 2 says we plug in the point and we plug in the slope. So instead of y, we plug in 2. Instead of m, we plug in 1. Instead of x, we plug in 3. We just did step 2. Step 2 says use y equals mx plus b, which I did. I substituted one of the points. I used this one, 3, 2. And the slope right here was 1. Step 3, solve for b. Okay, so now I'm going to solve and find out what b is. 1 times 3, it's 3, in case you were wondering. And then to solve for b, I just need to subtract 3 from both sides. And I end up with b equals -1. So I know my slope is 1. I now know that b is -1. I can now write the equation because I have the slope and the y-intercept. Tell the person next to you what the equation is. If you said it is y equals 1x minus 1, you are correct. Now, technically, you don't have to leave the 1 here. So you could also call this y equals x minus 1. That's step 4. Write the equation in slope-intercept form. That's y equals mx plus b. Using the slope you were given and the b value that you found. We weren't really given it, we found it. We found the slope, we just found the b value, so there's our equation. Last step. Check to see if the other point works in the equation. Okay, there's a lot of different steps here. So this is where you can double check your answer and know if you're right or wrong at the end of the problem. So when it says other point, notice that we use 3, 2 to find b over here. So we know 3, 2 is going to work in this equation. So we should use this other point and double check and see if it works. So let's plug in 5 for x and 4 for y and see if it works. So y is 4, x is 5. Does 4 equal 5 minus 1? Yeah, it does. Now I know for sure that I got the problem right because the other point also works in that equation I found. So my final answer is y equals x minus 1. All right, maybe you try out the next 2 problems on your own. Maybe we pause or something here. You can look at all my steps there in all the glorious colors. It looks delicious right now. So why don't you try these out on your own? Pause right here, and you'll see how you did. All right, did you unpause at this point? Let's see. So x1, y1, x2, y2. find the slope first because that's what it told me to do. Finding the slope. 18 minus negative 12. Uh-oh. Negative, negative. 3 minus 8. In the numerator, 18 minus negative 12, that's 18 plus 12, that's 30. 3 minus 8, negative 5. My slope, negative 6. So now I know that my slope is negative 6. Step 2, use y equals mx plus b, and substitute one of the points for x and y and the slope into m. So I'm going to use x and y, just the first one, just because I said so. Okay, so we're going to do y equals mx plus b. Instead of y, I'm going to plug in negative 12. Instead of m, I'm going to plug in negative 6. Instead of x, I'm going to plug in 8 plus b. So I get negative 12 equals negative 48 plus b. Next step, I'm going to add 48 to both sides. And that tells me that b is equal to 36. So I know that m is negative 6. I know that b is 36. I now know my equation. I'm on step 4. I'm going to write the equation in slope-intercept form. This would be y equals negative 6x plus 36. There's my slope. There's my y-intercept, my b. Okay, now we check our answer. Now I used 8, negative 12 to find out what b is. So I'm going to use 318 to double check to see if this is correct or not. So I'm going to plug 18 into y. And in x, I'm going to plug in 3. All right, so 18 equals negative 18 plus 36. And what do you know? 36 minus 18 is 18. So I know it works. So that was the answer. My answer was y equals negative 6x plus 36. Now your homework tells you to do this step. I will be looking for that tomorrow. So make sure you're doing this step and checking your work. If it doesn't work out, you need to go back and find where you made a mistake. I bet it was with a negative somewhere. So look for that. Last problem, double check your work. So x1, y1, x2, y2. Let's find our slope. M equals negative 2 minus 2. There's my y values. Over 9 minus negative 3. Numerator, negative 2 minus 2 is negative 4. 9 plus 3, because it's a negative negative, is 12. This does reduce, but look, the bigger number's on the bottom. So this should be negative 1/3. So my slope is negative 1/3. We're on to step 2. Let's find our b value by plugging in y equals mx plus b. So I'm going to use this first point here again. So instead of y, I plug in 2. Instead of m, I plug in negative 1/3. Instead of x, I plug in negative 3. And then plus b. Okay, so remember that when we have a fraction like this, we multiply by the number on top and we divide by the number on the bottom. So negative 1 times negative 3 is 3, and 3 divided by 3 is positive 1. So we get 2 equals 1 plus b. Now I subtract 1 from both sides. And I end up with b equals 1. So my slope was negative 1/3. My y-intercept is 1. So now I can write the equation of my line. My line should be y equals negative 1/3 x plus 1. Last step, I'm going to check my answer to make sure I did it right. I'm going to use this point right here. I'm going to plug negative 2 into y and 9 into x. So instead of y, I plug in negative 2. Instead of x, I plug in 9. Let's see what we get. Negative 1/3 times 9. That's negative 9 over 3, which is negative 3. Negative 3 plus 1 is negative 2. Negative 2 equals negative 2, so now I know for sure that second point worked, and my answer must be correct. All right, my people, I will see you tomorrow. Keep mathing hard. Bye-bye.